Hello, Music Times viewers. We're in the studio here with Shayna Leigh to talk about her latest EP. Hey, Shayna Leigh.
Yes.
Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Yeah, we're excited to have you here. So for our viewers who don't know as much about your background, can you tell us a little bit about how you got into music and made the decision to make it your career?
Of course. I grew up in Orlando, Florida, and I sort of did a bunch of extracurricular activities as a kid. I did gymnastics. I was terrible. I did basketball. I was terrible. And I stumbled upon acting classes, and I wasn't terrible. So it really stuck. And I started doing a lot of that, and from that sort of came singing. And then I was sort of like, I love this. And I started writing. And then I stopped writing for a little bit because I was 16 and I felt like I wasn't sure who I wanted to be yet. So I went to college and I lived my life. And then, as I was nearing graduation, I just started feeling like I have something to say, which felt ridiculous, but also very true to me that there was something that I wanted to put out in the world. So I started writing songs and decided to do my own thing. I think for me it was always more that I never could quit, mm-hmm. that there was nothing else I wanted to do, so I couldn't stop, than that there was like a defining moment that I was like, this is what I have to do. It was more like, I can't not do this, so I guess I'm just going to keep going.
So did you start playing shows then in Florida? That's where you're from originally?
Well, I was in New York at that point already because
okay.
I had graduated, because I came here for college,
mm-hmm.
and I always knew I wanted to live in New York. So it felt very homey. And then I started working with different co-writers and producers and just writing and actually did a couple of albums that I'm not releasing before I created this EP. It was sort of a process of finding out like what I wanted to sound like and what my voice was and getting to a place where I felt like I was really saying what I wanted to say, because that was kind of the whole reason I did it anyway, Mm-hmm. That was always the most important thing to me, was that I feel.
And so on this latest EP, what was the songwriting process like for that? What was inspiring you around that time, like thematically, and then also like what were you listening to? The things that built what became your EP.
I feel like for me, the EP came out of sort of a difficult time in my life where I was sort of like, is this what I want to do? Am I in the right place? Did I do the right things? And I was feeling really sort of down, and yet I wanted to keep going for whatever reason, and all the songs in the EP have sort of become about that. They were written at very different times with very different co-writers. One of them I wrote in Nashville a couple years ago. One of them I wrote in London last year, and then the other three I wrote in New York. But they were, and so they're all sort of benchmarks on the road to feeling like a strong whole person, sort of like finding yourself again when you feel like maybe you don't want to find yourself. Yeah, like, this is who I am, this is, that I can get through it, that we can get through it, and that sort of is what I feel like the whole thing became about, which is really cool, because that is kind of what I feel like my life and like life is about.
Definitely.
Being in a sort of bizarre situation and getting through it,
Well, then I was going to ask you, because your last two EPs, they had a variety. They weren't named after you. So I was going to say, like, what about this EP? I guess you kind of explained it, like that you put your name, like, hey, Shayna Leigh.
I did. I put my name on this one because I do feel like it's the closest I've gotten so far to expressing what I wanted to express, and I feel like it's something that I feel really good about putting out in the world, mm-hmm. In terms of the way I try to like live my life, I guess. I think it just, the idea was sort of suggested to me, and then I couldn't get away from it. I tried all these other ideas and maybe like smart, funny ideas, and it just
so simple.
Felt like the title. Yeah. It also was my Twitter and Instagram name.
Oh,
so that
works very well.
Yeah, so my manager came to me and he was like, look, you've got this name already. What if that's the name of the EP? And at first I was like, absolutely not. And then I couldn't stop thinking about it. I was like, I guess that's what it's called, because I couldn't stop.
Well, it's a good jumping off point, I guess, for now, like a future, full length or something like that. So what sort of, like, what artists were you listening to, or who are some of your favorite artists who inspire you? or who you listen to who might have inspired the record?
I mean, I feel like I'm multi-inspired. I think that there's like the part of any artist that's sort of inspired by what is their roots. So, you know, I was raised on the Beatles, and my mom raised me on Carole King, and, you know, I was also raised on the B-52s. So, like, these are sort of inspirational things that underlie everything you do.
Because the foundation.
Yeah, and, like, whenever you feel down or, like, not like yourself, you go right back to those, you know, the songs you listened to when you were coming of age. I think that the things that I've been listening to a lot now are the female singer-songwriters, the Ingrid Michaelsons and the Sarah Bareilles and people who have found a way to be both sort of pop artists in a way, but also really interesting songwriters with depth and sort of perspective, which I think is something that was not necessarily always in mainstream pop. I mean, I think it was, but you had to search more for it, and I think it's really cool that now really mainstream music is songwriting, you know, is songwriters. It's personal, deep, kind of smart songwriting, which is kind of a cool thing. Yeah, it's refreshing. And you know, to get to sort of pretend to play alongside that is very cool.
So, sonically, like, the sound that you were going for, you said when you first started off that you were looking for, you know, what you wanted your sound to be. So, I guess, what would you describe your sound as? Like,
I call it, when I meet people who I don't know very well, I call it singer-songwriter pop. But what I think it is, I think it's a combination of sort of organic elements of traditional songwriting and acoustic guitar, kind of combined with pop elements and different synthetic things that are more studio sounds of like modern pop music. So I think it's kind of the combination of the hard and the soft and an organic feel and also like an edgy feel. So I try to like kind of go there. I mean,
being from the South, like, did you ever think of going the country route?
It's so funny. More than one person has mentioned country music to me in the past week. I don't consider myself particularly Southern. I feel like I definitely have a super Northern.
You don't have a Southern accent.
I don't have a Southern accent. I feel like I have a bit of an urban vibe. But I love that. I mean, I love that country music is so based in storytelling. I think the
songwriting tradition is probably where.
I mean, that's where the songwriting. You know, I mean, Nashville turns out song after song after song that's just brilliant. I don't know that I fit in there, but I do think that I want to tell stories. Mm-hmm. So for me, it's like, I don't really care what category you think I'm in, as long as you like it.
It's
and
more
if you
the
don't,
story you're
then
trying to tell.
Don't worry. Yeah.
Then, like, you know, what genre you fit in.
Yeah, I try not to worry too much about that because I feel like, I mean, I think you need to know who you are and you need to find a sound that feels good to you and suits your voice and suits what you're trying to say and effectively communicates what it is. But I think the more you manipulate and sort of get away from what it is that you are when you walk in a room, there's less there. You know, each person is special just because they're there.
Definitely.
Yeah. So I think,
and then your songs, if it's good songwriting, then you can kind of remix it in any genre. It can be pop.
That is true. We are in the age of the remix. We are in the age of the remix. I've thought about that for sure.
And so you've been on tour a little bit. I know you're going to be playing CMJ coming up here.
I am.
Can you describe a little bit of your live show? Do you have like any backing band? I mean, you have your guitar player. Is it a full band or?
I do different things, different shows. It sort of depends for me on lots of different factors. I recently played a show in New York with a full band. The CMJ show, it's going to be me and the guitarist, and we're going to do a duo. Intimate. But I'm looking at doing more of a 2-3 piece thing going forward. I think it really depends on the size of the venue and the sort of type of the venue and the type of evening. I play with mostly the same people and sort of just in different amounts.
Gotcha.
Depending on the day. And I think that keeps it fresh.
Yeah.
So you can come see more than one show, ideally, and like it's a different show because it's super different. I don't know.
So, what are your plans? What are your future plans going forward? Full length, or what's in the works?
More shows are in the works. I'm going to be announcing them soon, but some more shows in the end of the year, and actually some Christmas music. We're gonna release a Christmas song, and conceptually a video to go with the Christmas song that is also in the works, and sort of bring in the holiday season, and then start January. I'm doing some other writing and recording, so certainly another EP I feel like is not so far away.
So do you think you'll go another EP instead of trying, like, just putting little things out that's quicker, or?
I think there's a part about being quicker, and I think when people find something they like, they want more and more and more and more. And if I went full length, I feel like I would have to wait such a long time.
Yeah.
And as I feel like I'm trying to build momentum and sort of develop myself in a way that it feels like I want to give more. So I want to do more as fast as I can, which is why I think EP is going to be the way to go. I feel like, especially with new artists, that's kind of what the way to go these days. I mean, but
I show how you're developing as each new EP comes out.
Yeah, and you get to create something that can be very simple and or very complicated, but it doesn't have to carry the weight of a full album. I also think that when you're just getting out there, so much of it is trial and error and figuring out what works better and what works worse, and if you're going to be sort of strategic about it, it makes sense to put out like an EP and gauge the response and then grow from that and then create another EP. You know?
It gives the songs more, you can highlight them more just by having a few of them. Well, look forward to hearing all the new stuff you're writing.
Thank you so much.
Well, thanks for coming. And Music Times viewers, make sure to check out Shayna's latest EP, Hey Shayna Leigh.
Thank you so much.